Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Star Wars Black Series custom figure showcase, where today we're going to be taking a look at one of my most popular custom figures, the Havoc Squad Trooper. This figure was undoubtedly one of the most popular figures I've ever made, and I'm so excited to finally be able to show more details and behind the scenes footage about how this figure was made. That all being said, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Havoc Squad Trooper. The design of the Havoc Squad Trooper is from the 2011 MMO Star Wars The Old Republic, where they featured heavily in the Hope cinematic trailer. These dudes firmly cemented their statuses as certified badasses when they went toe-to-toe with an entire Sith army. I'd been looking for a Havoc Squad Trooper kit for a long time, so when I saw Skylu 3D Design share his work-in-progress 3D model, I knew I had to make it. I was pretty impressed with the 3D model, but I knew from the get-go that I really wanted to resize some of the aspects of the model to better match the proportions of the cinematic trailer design. Skylu had sized the original kit to fit cleanly on the Black Series Clone Trooper body, however really wanted to build the Havoc Trooper on the slightly bulkier Stormtrooper body. Unfortunately, I started this project a while before 3D scanning became mainstream, so the majority of the scaling was done by simply printing a piece out and seeing whether I liked it or not. I alleviated some of the error initially by adjusting the sizing of some pieces based on the promotional image of the trooper, however the majority of the build was sized through trial and error. I can't tell you how many times I spent printing and reprinting, but it was close to a month. I do feel this was time well spent though, because the adjusted proportions really help sell the figure as a real thing, rather than an action figure. Proportions are one of the most important aspects to get right in my opinion. You can be the best painter in the world, but if your proportions aren't right on your final figure, it'll always look a little goofy, which is why I try and ensure that the fit of the armor on any character looks as lifelike as it can be. This oftentimes means that you have to do a bit more sanding and dremeling to get the right look, but it's entirely worth it in my mind. I actually managed to find an unused Havoc Trooper kit so you can get a better idea of how the raw kit looks without the paint. This original kit was all printed with an Lego Saturn printer using their standard gray resin. However, I made a few changes to the kit as I gained more experience. The second version of this kit featured shoulders with updated detailing, with the Havoc logo adjusted to match that of the trailer, and also featured the small clips present on the shoulder piece. I also began printing the elbows in F69 Flex resin, which greatly increased both the range of motion and fixed the snapping issue present on my figure. If I were to print this kit again, I would definitely also print the boots in F69 resin as well. Skylu also released some new items for this kit at this time, including Jace Malcolm's unique pauldron and the chest strap with the mine. I always wanted to paint up a second kit to be Jace Malcolm, but never really got around to it, which is why I had this kit sitting around. Hopefully I'll be able to get to it one day. I also sized and scaled the heavy blaster cannon and rifle from Mystery Makers 3D, and it worked perfectly. I highly encourage you to check out both Skylu 3D and Mystery Maker 3D's Patreons, as they have a ton of awesome 3D Star Wars models. As far as the figure goes, he took quite a bit of sanding to get right. In a poll I held on my Instagram story, Ben asked me if the shoulders hinder articulation. The way I did the shoulders here was that I kept the floating shoulders present on the base Stormtrooper body, but cut and sanded off the Stormtrooper shoulders so I was left with a base to glue the Havoc shoulders onto. This allows them to float on top of the shoulders without restricting any of the articulation, just like the original Stormtrooper figure. The dremeling wasn't too difficult, as most of it is the same stuff you have to do for a game-accurate Clone Commando figure. The real difficult part besides sizing the kit was painting it. Unlike most of my figures, due to the complexity of the assembly, I fully assembled this guy first and then painted him afterwards, as I didn't want to mess around with trying to get the painted pieces to fit onto the figure. Since it was a kit I had never worked with before, I wanted to fully assemble it first in case anything cracked. That way all I had to do would be to reprint a piece, rather than having to repaint and reprint. Once the figure was fully assembled, I gave the entire figure a flat black primer using Citadel's Chaos Black paint, and then masked off all the joints and gave him a white base coat using Citadel's Scar White. For the red coloring, I ended up mixing a color that I can only describe as rust salmon, since I wasn't able to find an out-of-the-bottle solution that matched my references. I hand-painted this color with a brush, and it ended up turning out pretty smooth. Due to all the raised surfaces on the figure, I didn't have to worry about masking like I normally would, and only had to mask off the red stripes in the shoulders. Once the figure was fully painted, I went back and added some scratches and dings to the red parts of the armor using Citadel White. I finished weathering the figure by doing light detail washes on the armor, using watered-down Vallejo German Field Gray mixed 50-50 with water. The sculpt on this guy is so detailed, and the light wash does an amazing job at bringing out all of that detail. Once I had finished painting the figure, I sealed the whole thing with Krylon matte acrylic clear coating and painted the visor with 50-50 watered-down Vallejo gloss varnish. A question by Clone Krieger was whether the figure had ankle articulation. He does have some ankle articulation, however it's fairly limited. I took this Skylu shoe model and loaded it up in Blender, and actually modeled the Stormtrooper ankle joint and peg into the Havoc Trooper shoe model so it could fit. This took a few tries, but it made it so I can just peg the ankle into the shoe and keep the articulation. However, due to the design of the shoe and of the leg armor, the ankle articulation is pretty limited. I definitely could get some more articulation out of it if I reprinted this piece in F69 Flex resin. Andrew19 asked me how he looked next to some of my other Old Republic figures, so let's go ahead and take a look. As you can see, he scales pretty nicely with the other figures and is just about the same height as the Sith Trooper and about a head shorter than Darth Mar, who's absolutely one of my favorite custom figures I've ever made, even if no one seems to know who he is. The Havoc Squad Trooper is totally dwarfed by the Black Series Darth Malgus figure, which is fitting since I think in canon Malgus is supposed to be something crazy like 8 feet. Trey Wars Customs asked me what next custom I'd like to make. As far as overall, I'm currently working on reworking the Clone Commando based on the new kit that came out from Skylu 3D, however I'd love to do an Old Republic Jedi Knight. I love the look of these guys in the cinematics, I just haven't really seen a kit yet that really captures all the details I would want. My main character that I play in the game is a Jedi Shadow and wears the exact same armor as the cinematic trailers, so I'd love to recreate him eventually. I hope you all enjoyed this special look at my Havoc Trooper figure. This guy had a ton of work go into him and was a blast to size, assemble, and paint. I really hope Hasbro considers making an official Black Series version of this guy because he would be a great companion army builder to go with Malgus. I'll really take any figures of Old Republic character designs because they're just so cool to look at. Once again, a huge thank you to both Skylu 3D and Mystery Makers for modeling some of these parts that went into this figure. Without them, it definitely would not have been possible. Once again, if you have a suggestion or request for a custom figure you'd like to see me feature in a showcase or make, please feel free to put in the comments below. But until next time, peace.